For 312 years, the galaxy had forgotten what peace looked like. The war had started so long ago that no living commander remembered its true cause. Entire civilizations had been born during the conflict, grew into powerful empires, and collapsed before ever seeing a single day without battle. Stars that once shined with thriving trade routes had become graveyards of shattered fleets. Planets were no longer measured by their beauty, only by how many orbital defense rings they still possessed. The two greatest powers, the Dominion of Karos and the Alliance of Velshar, had reached complete exhaustion. Neither side could win. Neither side could surrender. Every victory cost millions. Every defeat cost billions. Yet the war continued. Not because anyone believed in it anymore, but because no one knew how to stop. Far from the front lines, beyond charts considered safe, a small scientific listening station quietly floated around an abandoned neutron star. Station Sigma 12 had only one purpose. Listen. Nothing more. No soldiers. No politicians. Just 12 scientists from different species searching the darkness for unknown signals. Most days, silence. Sometimes natural pulsars. Occasionally pirate communications. Nothing important. Until day 114, year 312. At exactly 3:17 Galactic Standard Time, every receiver aboard Sigma 12 activated at once. Not one. Every single one. The signal didn't come from any known relay. It wasn't transmitted through subspace. It ignored every law of faster-than-light communication the galaxy understood. It simply appeared. Senior Analyst Trin blinked at the display. Impossible. His assistant frowned. Should I filter background interference? No. Trin leaned closer. Record everything. The transmission lasted exactly 9 seconds. Not 10. Not 8. 9. Silence. The room remained frozen. Nobody spoke. Nobody even breathed. Finally, the youngest technician whispered, "What language was that?" Trin replayed the recording. 9 seconds. 9 seconds. The same calm voice. Human. Ancient. Confident. None of them understood the words. But every translator AI aboard the station suddenly crashed. Every one. Not from overload. From contradiction. The machines couldn't identify the language, yet simultaneously classified it as known. An impossible error. Within 2 hours, copies reached the Alliance. Within 4 hours, the Dominion intercepted them. Within 6, every intelligence agency in the galaxy possessed the mysterious recording. Entire research worlds stopped their normal work. Military encryption specialists abandoned classified projects. Linguists worked without sleep. Artificial intelligences consumed unimaginable computing power. No one translated a single sentence. The voice refused classification. It matched no existing language. Yet fragments resembled hundreds simultaneously. It was as though every civilization had once borrowed tiny pieces from it. The Supreme Council of the Alliance declared it psychological warfare. The Dominion insisted it was an enemy superweapon. Both prepared retaliatory strikes. Neither launched them. For the first time in centuries, fear outweighed hatred, because there was one detail nobody could explain. The signal's origin. It came from Earth. Silence consumed the emergency chamber. One minister slowly stood. Earth. Another shook his head. Impossible. The humans vanished over 600 years ago. They destroyed themselves. They left the galaxy. They ascended. They never existed. Every history archive told a different story. Humanity had become mythology. A civilization remembered only through contradictory legends. Some described them as peaceful explorers. Others called them monsters. A few ancient races refused to even pronounce their name. Deep beneath the Imperial archives, an old historian requested access to files sealed longer than the current governments had existed. Authorization denied. He tried again. Denied. Finally, an emergency wartime protocol unlocked the oldest vault. Dust-covered data crystals untouched for centuries. The first file opened. Its title contained only 2 words. Project Silence. The historian frowned. No. Hands trembling. He activated the recording. Inside was a warning issued over 600 years earlier. A warning ignored by everyone. If humanity ever speaks again. The message ended abruptly. Corrupted. The remaining 94% had been deliberately erased. Not damaged. Erased. Someone had wanted the galaxy to forget. Meanwhile, at the edge of explored space, a lone cargo captain noticed something strange. His navigation computer suddenly changed course without permission. Destination. Sol system. Access level. Authorized. Passenger status. Expected. The captain stared in disbelief. I never entered this route. The computer answered in a calm voice. You did not. Then who did? The screen displayed only one sentence. Transmission acknowledged. Return protocol initiated. As stars stretched into brilliant lines before his ship, the entire galaxy unknowingly began moving toward the greatest secret ever hidden. The cargo ship Wayfarer cut silently through hyperspace, its engines humming with unnatural precision. Captain Rollin had flown trade routes for nearly 40 years, and in all that time, he had never seen a navigation computer override its pilot. Yet now, every manual control remained locked. On the main display, the destination never changed. Sol system. Estimated arrival, 17 hours. Rollin pulled the emergency power relay. Nothing happened. He disconnected the navigation core. The ship continued on course. He even shut down the primary reactor for 5 terrifying seconds. Instead of losing power, the ship continued flying, illuminated by an unknown energy source. His first officer stared at the glowing consoles. Captain, our systems aren't powering the ship anymore. Rollin swallowed hard. Then what is? No one had an answer. Across the galaxy, the mysterious 9-second transmission was creating chaos. The Alliance Senate suspended all military offensives for the first time in over 3 centuries. The Dominion High Command did the same. Entire battle fleets remained motionless, facing each other across contested star systems. Normally, commanders would have seized such an opportunity. Instead, they waited. Every admiral feared making the first move before understanding the transmission. The war had reached a standstill, not because of diplomacy, but because of uncertainty. On the research world of Valor Prime, thousands of scientists worked without rest. The galaxy's greatest linguistic AIs analyzed the recording trillions of times. Every attempt ended the same way. Translation impossible. Then, a young xenolinguist named Lisa noticed something no machine had detected. It isn't one language. The room turned toward her. She replayed the recording, slowing it to 1% speed. Hidden beneath the human voice were microscopic frequency shifts. Each shift carried another layer of information. There weren't 1 or 2 languages. There were thousands. Every known galactic language existed inside the same 9 seconds, perfectly woven together. The transmission wasn't speaking to one civilization. It was speaking to all of them at once. The discovery sent shockwaves across every research network. But one question remained. What did it actually say? Meanwhile, deep beneath the Dominion capital, Supreme Marshal Varek entered the vault of forbidden history. Only 3 beings had entered that chamber in the last 500 years. Ancient security systems scanned his DNA, neural patterns, and command authority. A massive door slowly opened. Inside were relics from civilizations long erased. Among them stood a black crystalline archive labeled with a symbol no one used anymore. A single word appeared beneath it. Human. Varek activated the archive. A hologram flickered to life. An elderly alien wearing the robes of an ancient council looked directly into the recording. His voice trembled. If you are seeing this, then humanity has spoken again. Varek's heartbeat quickened. We failed. They warned us. We believed silence meant extinction. We were wrong. The recording abruptly ended. Corrupted. Only fragments remained. Someone had erased the most important part. As panic spread through governments, another impossible event occurred. Every automated defense network in the galaxy briefly powered down. Orbital cannons, planetary shields, autonomous drones, even ancient defense satellites that had been isolated for centuries. Exactly 9 seconds. The same length as the transmission. Then everything restarted. No damage. No intrusion. Only one message appeared in every military system. Command verified. Military engineers insisted such authorization codes no longer existed. Yet somehow, every machine accepted them without question. News spread faster than any official announcement. Civilian networks overflowed with theories. Humans have returned. The ancients awakened. The war is over. The end has begun. Merchants abandoned trade routes. Colonists fled border worlds. Pirates vanished into deep space. Even criminal syndicates suspended operations. Fear united the galaxy in a way politics never had. Aboard the Wayfarer, Captain Roland finally emerged from hyperspace. Before him floated a yellow star. Peaceful. Ordinary. The Sol system. His scanners immediately reported something impossible. No defense fleets. No orbital weapons. No military stations. According to every history database, humanity's home should have been nothing more than ruins. Instead, Earth was alive. Blue oceans shimmered beneath white clouds. Green continents stretched across the surface. Cities sparkled along the night side of the planet. As if civilization had never disappeared. Roland whispered, "That's impossible." Then his long-range sensors detected a single object leaving lunar orbit. One ship. It wasn't enormous. It wasn't covered in weapons. Its hull was smooth, white, and elegant, reflecting sunlight like polished silver. No visible engines. No heat signature. No energy emissions. Yet it accelerated toward him with impossible speed. Within seconds, it stopped exactly 1,000 meters from the Wayfarer. Every scanner failed. Every weapon remained offline. Then a calm human voice echoed through every speaker aboard the ship. Not translated. Not transmitted through radio. It simply appeared inside the vessel. The voice said only one sentence. "Thank you for answering our invitation." Captain Roland looked through the forward viewport. For the first time in his life, he was looking at a human. And the human was smiling. Captain Roland couldn't move. The figure standing inside the white vessel looked ordinary. No towering armor. No glowing eyes. No terrifying alien technology visible. Just a human wearing a simple white uniform with silver insignia over the chest. Dark hair. Calm expression. Steady eyes that carried the weight of centuries. Yet every instinct in Roland's body screamed the same warning. This was not an ordinary being. The human raised a hand in greeting. "My name is Commander Elias Ward." "Welcome home." Roland frowned. "Home? I'm not human." Elias smiled gently. "No. But your ancestors once stood beside ours." Before Roland could answer, his ship's computer suddenly spoke. Identity confirmed. Commander Elias Ward. Supreme authorization level, Alpha 0. The captain stared at the display. "My ship recognizes you?" "It should," Elias replied. "We built the first generation of its navigation core over 600 years ago." Roland's eyes widened. "That's impossible. This ship is only 40 years old." "The hull is. The heart isn't." Light surrounded the Wayfarer as both ships drifted toward Earth. The closer they came, the more impossible everything became. There were no orbital defense cannons. No military fleets patrolled the planet. No massive shipyards crowded the skies. Instead, elegant stations floated peacefully in orbit, connected by shimmering streams of light. Thousands of civilian ships traveled in perfect harmony without a single escort. There was no fear. No tension. No sign that Earth had hidden from the galaxy for centuries. Commander Elias noticed Roland's confusion. "You expected a fortress. I expected survivors. You found both." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, panic reached its highest level. The Alliance and the Dominion had traced Captain Roland's jump. Every long-range sensor now focused on the Sol system. Millions watched live as humanity's homeworld appeared on their screens. Silence spread through command centers. Earth wasn't dead. It wasn't ruined. It had simply disappeared from history by choice. Grand Admiral Serac whispered, "They were here all along." No one answered, because everyone was thinking the same terrifying question. If humanity had remained hidden for 600 years, what had they been building? On Earth, Rollin stepped onto human soil. Fresh air filled his lungs. Birds sang in nearby forests. Children laughed in distant parks. The cities were unlike anything in the galaxy. Towering white structures blended naturally with rivers, mountains, and forests. Technology existed everywhere. Yet nothing scarred the landscape. It was as if nature and civilization had become one. Waiting near the landing platform stood dozens of humans. Scientists, engineers, farmers. None carried weapons. None looked afraid. One elderly woman approached Rollin with a warm smile. "You've traveled far. Welcome." Rollin hesitated. "Aren't you worried?" "About what?" "The galaxy." She looked toward the sky. "They've been fighting each other for centuries. We hoped one day they'd grow tired." Commander Elias led Rollin into a circular hall beneath the city. At its center floated a glowing sphere made of light. Stars appeared inside it. Entire galaxies rotated across its surface. "What is this?" Rollin asked. "The archive. It contains humanity's complete history." Rollin stared in awe. "If you possess knowledge like this, why hide?" Elias' expression grew serious. "Because the galaxy wasn't ready." He touched the sphere. Immediately, ancient images surrounded the room. The first human explorers. Alien civilizations meeting peacefully. Joint scientific projects. Shared discoveries. Not started by humanity. Started by fear. When humans developed technologies capable of ending scarcity, several powerful empires saw them as a threat. Propaganda spread. Alliances collapsed. The first attacks came without warning. Human colonies burned. Friends became enemies. Rollin watched in silence. "So, humanity lost?" Elias slowly shook his head. "No. We won." The room became silent. "We won. We ended the war in 43 hours. Rollin's heart skipped. "But history says humanity vanished." "We allowed history to believe that." Another image appeared. Hundreds of human leaders standing together. One decision. One vote. Instead of ruling a broken galaxy through fear, humanity chose to disappear. To watch. To wait. To give every civilization the chance to build its own future. "We believed peace forced upon others never lasts," Elias said quietly. "So we left. We hoped you'd learn." Rollin lowered his eyes. "We didn't. No. You inherited the same fear. The same hatred. The same endless wars." Suddenly, alarms echoed through the archive. A young officer rushed inside. "Commander! The Alliance and Dominion fleets are entering Sol System." Holographic displays appeared instantly. More than 180,000 warships emerged from hyperspace. Their weapons were fully charged. Every flagship demanded the same thing. "Humanity, surrender your technology immediately, or Earth will be destroyed." Rollin's face turned pale. "They're going to start another war." Commander Elias looked calmly at the approaching armada. Then he smiled. "No. They're about to hear the rest of the message." The skies above the Sol System shimmered as wave after wave of warships emerged from hyperspace. Alliance battle carriers. Dominion dreadnoughts. Independent mercenary fleets. Even neutral empires had arrived, unwilling to let history unfold without witnessing it. Within minutes, more than 180,000 warships surrounded Earth's outer defenses. Or rather, what they believed were Earth's defenses. Because every scan returned the same result. No planetary shield. No orbital weapons. No attack formations. Only peaceful stations and civilian traffic that continued as if nothing unusual was happening. Admiral Serac narrowed his eyes. "This has to be a trap." Supreme Marshal Varric agreed. No civilization would leave its homeworld unprotected. Yet no hidden fleet appeared. No weapon ports opened. No warning sirens echoed across Earth. The humans simply waited. Inside the Alliance flagship Resolute Dawn, panic spread through the command bridge. Every targeting computer suddenly displayed the same warning. Target lock denied. The weapons officer frowned. Impossible. Manual override. He tried again. Nothing. Missiles refused to arm. Rail cannons remained inactive. Even the ship's reactor automatically reduced power to combat systems. The same reports flooded in from every fleet. Dominion dreadnoughts. Alliance carriers. Private warships. Every vessel experienced identical failures. No one could fire. Commander Elias stood calmly inside Earth's orbital command center. He watched thousands of frightened faces appearing across the emergency communication network. Admirals. Presidents. Emperors. Generals. For the first time in centuries, the leaders of opposing civilizations occupied the same conference. Not by choice. Their communication systems had connected automatically. Elias looked into the camera. "Thank you for coming." Marshal Varek stepped forward angrily. "What have you done to our fleets?" "Nothing. Our weapons are disabled." "They are paused." "By whose authority?" Elias answered without hesitation. "By yours." Confusion spread across every screen. The human commander touched a control panel. The familiar 9-second transmission echoed once more through every flagship. But this time, it didn't stop. The original recording had only been the activation key. Now, the hidden message continued. The calm human voice filled every bridge. To every civilization receiving this transmission, if these words are reaching you, then history has repeated itself. Images replaced the stars outside every viewport. Ancient battlefields, burning worlds, destroyed civilizations, entire species erased by endless war. The voice continued. 600 years ago, humanity possessed the power to conquer the galaxy. We chose not to. The command bridges fell silent. Peace achieved through fear is temporary. Peace chosen through understanding can endure. Suddenly, another image appeared. It was the truth the galaxy had forgotten. The final battle of the human era. Not a war of conquest, but a war of defense. Human fleets had stood between fleeing civilian worlds and an armada determined to destroy them. Humans had sacrificed entire fleets so others could escape. Millions of lives saved. No territory claimed. No empire built. The recording ended with a single sentence. "Judge us not by the weapons we built, but by the wars we refused to win." Silence consumed every bridge. Many officers lowered their eyes. Everything they had been taught about humanity had been a lie. Then another impossible event unfolded. Every archive in the galaxy unlocked at once. Hidden files. Sealed records. Erased histories. Centuries of censorship vanished within seconds. Governments watched helplessly as their own classified databases exposed the truth. The first attacks against humanity. The fabricated propaganda. The deliberate destruction of historical evidence. The leaders of countless worlds realized the same horrifying fact. Their ancestors had hidden the truth to protect their own power. On the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, Admiral Serac slowly removed his command insignia. "I spent 50 years fighting this war." He looked toward Earth. "I never knew why it began." Across the communication network, commanders from enemy fleets did the same. Weapons officers stepped away from their consoles. Captains ordered reactors returned to civilian output. One by one, thousands of targeting systems shut down voluntarily. For the first time in over 3 centuries, no fleet in the galaxy aimed a weapon at another. Captain Rollin watched the scene unfold from Earth's command center. It worked. Commander Elias nodded. The transmission was never designed to control machines. It was designed to remind people. Rollin looked at him. "Then why were the weapons disabled?" Elias smiled faintly. "To give everyone 9 seconds. Long enough to choose before fear made the decision for them." Outside, The fleets remained motionless. No alarms. No missiles. No war. Only silence. And in that silence, the first true peace the galaxy had known in centuries had finally begun. Silence settled across the Sol system. For the first time in 312 years, not a single warship fired a weapon. The massive fleets still surrounded Earth, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Officers who had spent entire lifetimes preparing for battle now stood staring at their screens, uncertain what to do in a galaxy without war. Commander Elias Ward watched the thousands of ships drifting peacefully beyond Earth's orbit. "This," he said quietly, "is only the beginning." Captain Rollin looked at him. "The beginning of peace?" Elias slowly shook his head. "The beginning of the truth." Without warning, every holographic display inside Earth's command center changed. A silver sphere appeared, rotating slowly. Then came a familiar voice, not Elias's but an older human voice recorded centuries earlier. "Emergency Protocol Helios activated. Condition met, galactic conflict has ceased. Proceed to Phase 2. The room became silent. Even the human officers looked surprised. Captain Rollin frowned. "You didn't know about this?" Elias answered honestly. "No. The Helios Protocol was created by the First Council. Only the system itself knew when it would activate." On the far side of Earth's moon, something ancient awakened. For centuries, the barren gray surface had appeared untouched. Now the ground trembled. Dust rolled across endless craters as enormous metallic doors slowly opened beneath the lunar surface. Across the galaxy, every telescope automatically focused on the moon. Massive structures began rising from underground. Towering white spires. Circular platforms. Energy towers unlike anything ever recorded. Within minutes, an entire hidden city emerged from beneath the lunar crust. Gasps echoed through every flagship. Grand Admiral Serac whispered, "So the legends were true." Commander Elias stared in disbelief. "We thought those facilities were lost forever." The moon city continued unfolding. It wasn't military. There were no cannons. No missile silos. Instead, millions of glowing archives stretched beneath transparent domes. Research laboratories. Libraries. Seed vaults. Medical facilities. Cultural museums. Entire histories preserved with impossible precision. Captain Rollin could hardly believe what he was seeing. "You hid all of this?" Elias smiled sadly. "We didn't hide weapons. We hid knowledge." A colossal hologram suddenly appeared above the moon. An elderly woman wearing the uniform of humanity's First Council looked directly at every civilization watching. "My name is Chancellor Miriam Hayes. I record this message for a future I hoped would never need it." She paused. "If you are seeing me, then the galaxy has finally stopped fighting." Every fleet listened. "We refuse to leave behind an empire. So instead, we left behind a library." Images flooded every screen. Blueprints for limitless clean energy. Medical breakthroughs capable of curing diseases across hundreds of species. Agricultural systems that could end famine. Terraforming technologies that could restore dead worlds. Advanced propulsion systems requiring almost no fuel. The greatest scientific collection ever assembled. Humanity had never intended to rule the galaxy. They had intended to share it. Shock spread through every command center. Entire governments realized what 6 centuries of war had cost them. Not territory. Not fleets. Progress. While civilizations had destroyed one another, humanity had spent centuries preserving everything that could have united them. Commander Elias looked toward the moon. "My ancestors believed knowledge should be earned. They waited until the galaxy chose peace on its own." Captain Rollin smiled. "And now the library belongs to everyone." Almost immediately, scientists from dozens of species requested permission to visit. Doctors volunteered to exchange medical research. Engineers offered to rebuild devastated worlds together. Former enemies began speaking, not through threats, but through curiosity. For the first time in recorded history, warships requested docking clearance. Not to invade, but to collaborate. Then another alert echoed through the command center. Unlike the others, this one carried an unfamiliar symbol. Commander Elias's expression changed. "What is it?" Rollin asked. Elias stared at the screen. "I've never seen that authorization code before." The moon's ancient systems opened one final chamber. Deep beneath the city, far older than humanity's hidden archives, a solitary vault slowly unlocked. Inside rested a single black object. It wasn't human in design. It wasn't built by any known civilization. Ancient symbols glowed across its surface. The system identified it with only one sentence. "Origin, unknown." Then another line appeared. "Warning, transmission received from outside the Milky Way." Every person in the room froze. A new signal had just arrived. Not from Earth. Not from the galaxy. But from something waiting in the darkness between galaxies. And this time, the message was directed specifically to humanity. "We heard your transmission." The words remained suspended above the command center like frozen stars. "We heard your transmission." No one spoke. For several long seconds, even the vast fleets orbiting Earth seemed motionless. Scientists, admirals, diplomats, and civilians stared at the glowing message, trying to understand what it meant. Captain Rollin finally broke the silence. "Outside, the Milky Way?" Commander Elias nodded slowly, though his expression revealed that this surprised him as much as everyone else. "Our ancestors explored thousands of worlds," he said quietly. "But no human record ever mentioned contact beyond our own galaxy." The ancient vault pulsed again. A deep metallic hum echoed through the chamber. Then the mysterious black object rose into the air on its own. It had no engines. No visible seams. Its surface flowed like liquid obsidian, constantly reshaping itself into impossible geometric patterns. Every scanner aimed at it failed instantly, not because the object blocked them, but because the scanners reported conflicting results. One claimed it was only a few thousand years old. Another estimated its age at over 3 billion years. Others insisted it had never existed at all. Across every human archive, emergency systems awakened. The archive beneath Earth searched through 6 centuries of protected records. Thousands of files opened automatically. Most contained nothing relevant, until one forgotten entry appeared. Project Lighthouse. Commander Elias frowned. "I've never seen this project." The archive answered in its calm artificial voice. "Clearance unavailable." Elias looked surprised. "I'm the highest-ranking officer on Earth." "Negative. There is one authorization level above Alpha 0. The room fell silent. Captain Rollin whispered, "Who holds that authority?" The archive responded with only 2 words. "The founder." No one in the room recognized the title. Human history spoke of councils, presidents, scientists, explorers, but never a founder. Elias quickly opened the oldest historical records. There were references, but only fragments. A single name had been deliberately removed from nearly every document, as though humanity itself had chosen to erase one individual from history. Before anyone could investigate further, the black object activated. A beam of pale silver light projected into the center of the chamber. It wasn't a map. It was a star chart unlike anything known. The Milky Way appeared as a tiny spiral of light. Then the view zoomed outward. Hundreds of galaxies. Thousands. Millions. Until the Milky Way became almost invisible. Finally, one distant point began glowing. The projection labeled it. Source of transmission. Estimated distance. 2.4 million light-years. Gasps filled the room. No civilization possessed technology capable of sending a signal across such a distance. Not even ancient humanity. Then the projection changed. A face appeared. Not human. Not alien. Something different. Its features constantly shifted, as though reality itself struggled to define them. Yet its voice was calm. "We greet the descendants of Earth." Every translator worked perfectly. The being smiled gently. "You have passed the first test." Captain Rollin looked around. "Test?" The being continued. For 600 of your years, we listened. We observed. We waited. We wished to know whether humanity would become conquerors or guardians. Commander Elias stepped closer. And our answer? The being inclined its head. You remained silent when you possessed the strength to rule. You preserved knowledge instead of hoarding power. You allowed younger civilizations the freedom to choose. A pause followed. You have fulfilled the covenant. Confused murmurs spread through the chamber. Commander Elias frowned. What covenant? The being raised one luminous hand. Long before your species reached the stars, we met your ancestors. Every human in the room stared in disbelief. The being continued. We found a young civilization filled with curiosity. We offered no weapons. No empire. Only one promise. The stars around the projection shifted again. If humanity could prove that wisdom would always stand above domination, then one day the gates between galaxies would open. Captain Rollins' heart raced. You mean? The being nodded. The galaxy you know is not alone. There are thousands. And until today, Earth was not ready to meet them. Suddenly, alarms echoed across every station orbiting Earth. But these were not attack warnings. Long-range observatories detected something extraordinary. The darkness beyond Pluto shimmered. Space itself bent like rippling water. A gigantic circular structure slowly emerged from the void. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a station. It was a gateway. Its diameter stretched for nearly 1 million kilometers, glowing with soft white light. No weapons. No fleets. Only a doorway between galaxies. Commander Elias stared through the observation window. So this is what the 9-second transmission was really for. The mysterious being smiled. It was never a warning. It was an invitation. As the colossal gateway continued opening, countless faint lights became visible beyond it. Not stars. Ships. An entire civilization had answered humanity's call. And they were coming, not as conquerors, but as guests. The colossal gateway beyond Pluto continued to expand. Its brilliant white ring stretched across the darkness like a second sun, illuminating the outer reaches of the solar system. Every telescope, sensor array, and observation station in the Milky Way locked onto it. Not a single weapon was powered. Not a single fleet moved. The galaxy watched in complete silence. The first ship emerged. It wasn't enormous. It wasn't armed. It wasn't even intimidating. Its graceful silver hull resembled a flowing ribbon of light, constantly shifting as though woven from living starlight. It glided through the gateway without disturbing space around it, leaving behind thousands of tiny glowing particles that faded like fireflies. Captain Rollin whispered, "That's impossible." Commander Elias smiled. "No. It's simply older than anything we've ever seen." More ships followed. Then 100. Then thousands. Yet despite their overwhelming numbers, every vessel maintained perfect formation without military precision. There were no battleships. No carriers. No dreadnoughts. Instead, enormous exploration vessels, research arcs, habitat worlds, and living bioships drifted peacefully into the solar system. Some carried forests beneath transparent domes. Others contained entire oceans. Several appeared to be floating cities rather than spacecraft. Across every bridge in the Milky Way, stunned officers reached the same conclusion. This civilization had mastered space. Without becoming a military empire, the mysterious being reappeared above Earth's command center. "I am known as Asterion," it said. "I serve as an envoy of the Concord of Galaxies." Captain Rollin bowed instinctively. "How many civilizations belong to this Concord?" Asterion smiled. "At the last gathering, approximately 84,000. The room fell silent. The Milky Way contained only a fraction of that number. Humanity had kept the existence of an entire intergalactic community secret for centuries. Commander Elias frowned. "My ancestors never told us." "They wished your generation to earn this moment," Asterion replied. "Knowledge given too early becomes dependence. Knowledge earned becomes wisdom." As the conversation continued, the first Concorde vessel approached Earth. It stopped in orbit above the moon. No shields activated. No escort ships surrounded it. Instead, dozens of smaller craft descended toward the lunar city. Scientists from Earth waited at the landing platform. When the hatch opened, no soldiers emerged. Only researchers, doctors, historians, children. Representatives from dozens of completely unknown species stepped onto the moon together. Some walked on four legs. Some floated in shimmering energy fields. Others resembled crystalline light or living vines. Yet all greeted humanity with the same gesture, placing a hand, claw, or equivalent limb over the center of their chest. Commander Elias returned the gesture without hesitation. So the stories were true. Asterion nodded. They never stopped waiting for you. Meanwhile, something remarkable happened throughout the Milky Way. Former enemies began working together almost immediately. Alliance engineers assisted Dominion technicians in repairing damaged colonies. Medical teams crossed borders that had been closed for centuries. Trade routes reopened. Food convoys departed for worlds suffering from famine. The old symbols of war disappeared from countless ships, replaced by simple white banners bearing one word: unity. Captain Rollin watched the reports arriving from every sector. I've never seen the galaxy like this. Elias looked toward Earth. Neither have we. Later that evening, Asterion invited a small delegation into the Concorde flagship. Captain Rollin, Commander Elias, Admiral Serac, Marshal Varek, and representatives from dozens of worlds stepped aboard. Inside, they found no command bridge, no throne room, no military headquarters. Instead, they entered an immense circular hall filled with libraries, gardens, classrooms, and observatories. Young members of many species studied together beneath an artificial sky. Children laughed. Teachers explained the movements of distant galaxies. Captain Rollin smiled. This is your flagship? Asterion nodded. Our greatest weapon has always been education. Before anyone could respond, a soft chime echoed throughout the vessel. Asterion's expression changed for the first time. It wasn't fear. It was concern. A glowing map appeared in the center of the hall. One distant region of intergalactic space flashed crimson. The peaceful atmosphere instantly faded. Commander Elias noticed. What happened? Asterion looked at the gathering. There is another reason we came. The map zoomed toward a cluster of galaxies. Entire star systems were disappearing. Not exploding. Not burning. Simply vanishing. One after another. Asterion spoke quietly. For millions of years, the Concorde has protected life. But there is one force that cannot be reasoned with. Captain Rollin felt a chill. You mean another empire? Asterion slowly shook its head. No. It is older than galaxies. It does not conquer. It consumes. The hall fell silent. Then Asterion revealed the truth that humanity's ancestors had hidden for centuries. The 9-second transmission did more than end your war. It also announced to the universe that humanity is finally ready for the war that truly matters. A silence heavier than any battlefield settled over the Concorde flagship. No one moved. No one even breathed. The glowing star map hung in the center of the chamber, showing dozens of galaxies connected by shimmering trade routes. Along one edge of the map, however, those lights simply ended. Not because they had dimmed, because they no longer existed. Entire civilizations had vanished without leaving behind planets, debris, or radiation. It was as though reality itself had been erased. Captain Rollins stared at the empty region. How many worlds? Asterion answered quietly. Over 12 million. The word struck the room harder than any weapon. 12 million worlds. Not colonies. Not cities. Worlds. Marshal Varek lowered his head. Our 3-century war destroyed thousands. He looked at the map again. This enemy erased millions. Commander Elias stepped closer to the projection. What are they called? Asterion hesitated. Every civilization gives them a different name. The Devourers. The Endless Dark. the silence beyond. But their oldest recorded name is... Asterian's voice became almost a whisper. The null. The room darkened as ancient recordings filled the air. A spiral galaxy glowing with life. Then a wave of absolute blackness moved through it. Stars disappeared. Planets vanished. Even light itself seemed unable to escape. When the darkness passed, nothing remained. No wreckage. No energy. Only empty space. Captain Roland felt his hands trembling. How do you fight something like that? Asterian looked toward Commander Elias. You don't. You survive long enough to understand it. Another hologram appeared. This one showed humanity 600 years earlier. Not in battle. In a laboratory. Hundreds of scientists stood around a strange crystalline device. Commander Elias frowned. I've never seen this archive. Asterian nodded. Because your ancestors sealed it. The first contact between humanity and the Concord wasn't about technology. It was about a discovery. The crystal activated. For exactly 9 seconds, it emitted a unique pattern of energy. The same pattern as the mysterious transmission. Captain Rollins suddenly understood. The transmission was never just a message. Asterian smiled. It was a frequency. A resonance. A signal that the null cannot imitate. Commander Elias crossed his arms. So that's why every machine recognized it. Correct. It wasn't speaking to computers. It was identifying humanity. Asterian enlarged the projection. Hidden inside those 9 seconds were billions of microscopic quantum signatures. Impossible to forge. Impossible to corrupt. They proved one thing beyond all doubt. Humanity still existed. And humanity had chosen peace. Only then had the Concord answered. Suddenly, alarms echoed throughout the flagship. Unlike the earlier warnings, these were urgent. A Concord officer rushed into the chamber. Envoy Asterian. The outer observation arrays have detected movement. The star map zoomed toward the Crimson region. At first, nothing. Then tiny black points appeared. Thousands. Then millions. Within seconds, the map estimated their speed. They're accelerating. Captain Rollin looked confused. Toward what? The officer answered. Toward us. The room fell silent. Across the Milky Way, observatories confirmed the impossible. The null had changed direction. For millions of years, they had expanded slowly across distant galaxies. Now, they were coming directly toward the Milky Way. Commander Elias looked at Asterian. They heard the transmission too. Asterian nodded once. They know humanity has awakened. Inside Earth's ancient archive, a forgotten chamber unlocked automatically. This vault had never been opened before. Not even by the First Council. At its center stood a single pedestal. Resting upon it was a small silver sphere. When Elias touched it, the sphere projected the image of Chancellor Miriam Hayes. Her expression was calm, but her eyes carried deep sorrow. If this recording has activated, then the null have begun moving. She paused before continuing. We hoped this day would never come. Captain Rollin listened in stunned silence. So humanity knew? Yes, Miriam answered through the recording. For 6 centuries we prepared. The hologram shifted to reveal something hidden beneath Earth's oceans. Not cities. Not bunkers. Shipyards. Colossal underground construction complexes stretching across entire continents. Doors larger than mountains slowly opened. Massive white vessels began rising toward the surface. One after another. Hundreds. Then thousands. Then tens of thousands. These weren't warships built for conquest. They were guardian ships. Elegant. Powerful. Covered in symbols representing every civilization humanity had ever met. Commander Elias whispered in disbelief. I thought we had no fleet. The hologram answered him. We didn't. We had a promise. Around Earth, the newly revealed Guardian fleet silently assembled in orbit. Every ship powered up together, filling space with soft white light. Across the Milky Way, former enemies watched the impossible sight. No one felt fear. Only hope. Then the flagship at the center of the formation transmitted a single message across every known star system. This time, we stand together. As the Guardian fleet turned toward the edge of the galaxy, long-range sensors detected the first ripple of impossible darkness entering intergalactic space. The null had arrived. The edge of the Milky Way glowed with an eerie contrast. On one side, millions of stars shone with the light of countless civilizations finally united. On the other, darkness. Not the ordinary darkness of empty space. This darkness moved. It flowed across the void like an endless ocean, swallowing starlight wherever it passed. Entire constellations disappeared behind its advancing shadow. Every observatory in the galaxy transmitted the same warning. The null have entered the Milky Way. Yet, unlike every war in galactic history, no panic spread. No governments argued. No fleets turned against one another. Instead, ships from former enemy empires gathered side by side, forming the largest united armada ever assembled. Alliance cruisers, Dominion dreadnoughts, independent explorers, merchant defense vessels, Concord arcs, and at their center, humanity's guardian fleet. Commander Elias stood aboard the flagship Aurora Sentinel, watching millions of ships fall into formation. Captain Rollins smiled faintly. 3 centuries of war. And it took 9 seconds to unite everyone. Elias nodded. Sometimes hope travels faster than fear. As the fleets advanced, the darkness stopped. The null did not charge. They did not fire weapons. Instead, a ripple spread through the black void. From within it emerged a single shape. Towering. Featureless. Neither machine nor living creature. It seemed made from the absence of reality itself. Every scanner failed. Every sensor returned only one result. Unknown. A deep voice echoed across space, not through speakers, but directly into every conscious mind. Humanity! You have broken the silence. Commander Elias stepped forward. We ended a war. The voice answered instantly. You delayed the inevitable. The stars around the creature dimmed. Conflict is the natural destiny of intelligent life. Unity is temporary. Eventually, they will destroy one another again. Many officers felt doubt creeping into their thoughts. The null fed on despair, on fear, on mistrust. Asterian's voice echoed across every allied fleet. Do not answer with anger. The null grows stronger through hatred. Commander Elias understood immediately. He opened a galaxy-wide communication channel. Every ship, every station, every inhabited world. His voice reached trillions. For centuries, we believed strength came from defeating our enemies. He paused. We were wrong. The greatest strength is choosing not to create new enemies. Across the fleet, weapons remained lowered. No one fired. The null hesitated. For the first time, the advancing darkness slowed. Captain Rollins suddenly noticed something extraordinary. The Guardian fleet wasn't charging its weapons. Instead, every ship emitted the same gentle white pulse as the original 9-second transmission. One ship, then another, then another. Within moments, millions of vessels synchronized perfectly. The signals spread across the Milky Way. Every communication relay joined. Every satellite, every research station, every civilian transport, even planets themselves amplified the resonance. The galaxy wasn't preparing for battle. It was speaking with one voice. The same frequency humanity had preserved for 600 years. A signal of cooperation. The darkness began to tremble. Small fragments of the null separated from the massive cloud. Not exploding. Changing. Within the blackness, faint points of light slowly appeared. Asterian stared in disbelief. In all our history, we've never seen this. Commander Elias looked toward the shifting darkness. What is happening? Asterian whispered. The null is listening. The colossal entity spoke again. Its voice no longer carried certainty, only curiosity. Impossible. Why do you not seek dominion? Commander Elias answered calmly. Because someone once gave humanity a choice. And today, We chose again. Silence followed. Then Captain Rollin realized something astonishing. The null isn't trying to conquer us. Everyone turned toward him. He continued. It's testing us. Asterion slowly nodded. The oldest records hinted at this. The null consumes civilizations that cannot escape endless conflict. But no one had ever survived long enough to prove it. The darkness slowly retreated. Not in defeat. Not in victory. Simply choosing another path. Before disappearing into intergalactic space, the ancient entity spoke one final sentence. The cycle has been broken. Then it vanished. The stars returned. Across the Milky Way, cheers erupted from billions of worlds. No final battle had been fought. No empire had fallen. No planet had burned. Humanity had accomplished what no civilization before them ever had. They had won, without firing a single shot. But as celebrations echoed across the stars, Earth's ancient archive unlocked one final message. A message that had waited over 600 years for this exact moment. And it began with 4 unforgettable words. To the children of tomorrow. The celebration spread across the Milky Way like a sunrise after an endless night. For the first time in recorded history, no distress signals filled the communication networks. No emergency fleet mobilizations. No declarations of war. Instead, every inhabited world broadcast the same image. The stars. Peaceful. Silent. Free. From the balcony of Earth's Orbital Council Hall, Commander Elias Ward watched thousands of ships orbiting the planet. Alliance cruisers floated beside Dominion dreadnoughts. Concord exploration vessels shared docking ports with former pirate freighters that had laid down their weapons. Captain Rollins stepped beside him. I never imagined I'd see this. Elias smiled. Neither did my ancestors. Deep beneath the archive, the final chamber opened. The silver sphere projected one last hologram. Chancellor Miriam Hayes appeared once again. This time, she was smiling. If you are watching this, then humanity succeeded. She looked directly into the recording as though speaking across 6 centuries. The greatest mistake intelligent life can make is believing that power creates peace. It never has. It never will. She paused. Our ancestors discovered that every civilization eventually reaches a single moment. A choice. Rule through fear. Or lead through hope. She took a slow breath. We chose hope. And today. So did you. The hologram expanded into a map unlike any ever seen. Not just the Milky Way. Not even the local group. Billions of galaxies shimmered across the projection, connected by brilliant streams of light. Asterion stepped forward. The Concord of Galaxies officially welcomes the Milky Way. A thunder of applause echoed through the chamber. Representatives from hundreds of worlds stood together, not as rivals, but as partners. Marshal Varek, once humanity's greatest enemy, extended his hand toward Admiral Serac. No more borders. Serac smiled and shook it firmly. No more wars. The chamber erupted in cheers. Months passed. Then years. The galaxy transformed faster than anyone believed possible. The Moon Library became the largest center of learning ever built. Students from thousands of species studied side by side. Former military academies became engineering institutes. Weapons factories became shipyards dedicated to exploration. Destroyed planets were restored using humanity's ancient terraforming technology. Diseases that had plagued civilizations for millennia disappeared. Hunger became a memory. Poverty slowly faded. The Guardian fleet no longer patrolled for enemies. Instead, it escorted scientific expeditions beyond the edge of known space. Humanity had finally shared everything it had protected for 600 years. Captain Rollin returned home at last. His once-forgotten cargo ship, Wayfarer, was preserved in Earth's Museum of First Contact. Visitors often laughed when they learned the truth. History had changed because one ordinary cargo captain followed a navigation route he never selected. Rollin would simply smile. Sometimes, the universe chooses its own messenger. On the anniversary of the 9-second transmission, Every world in the Milky Way observed 9 seconds of silence. Not in mourning, but in remembrance. Children asked their teachers why. The answer was always the same. Because 9 seconds reminded us that listening is sometimes more powerful than speaking. Across the stars, billions closed their eyes together. For exactly 9 seconds, the galaxy was perfectly silent. When the silence ended, Commander Elias activated one final broadcast. It reached every civilization in the Concord, every new explorer, every child born after the Great Peace. His words became the closing chapter of humanity's history. We were never the strongest species. We simply learned one lesson before everyone else. Technology can build ships. Knowledge can build civilizations. But only trust can build a future. Far beyond the Milky Way, the ancient null watched from the darkness between galaxies. For the first time in countless ages, it did not advance. Instead, a single point of light appeared within the endless void. Then another, and another. The darkness itself slowly began to change. Not because it had been defeated, but because humanity had shown it something it had never witnessed in billions of years. A civilization powerful enough to conquer the universe, that chose instead to unite it. And somewhere, hidden among the oldest stars, an ancient beacon that had remained dormant since before Earth's first civilization finally came to life. Its message echoed across the cosmos. Status report. Humanity has fulfilled the covenant. The age of endless war has ended. The age of united galaxies begins now. Those words traveled farther than the original 9-second transmission. They crossed galaxies, inspired worlds that had never heard of Earth, and became the first sentence in a new chapter of cosmic history. Because in the end, the most powerful weapon humanity ever created was never a battleship, never a superweapon, never an empire. It was a 9-second message that reminded an entire universe that peace is not won by destroying your enemies. It is won when you give them a reason to become your friends.